Recording in progress.
Please accept our humble obeisances. Blessed to Srila Prabhupada. So, we welcome this Bhakti Vigna Vinashak Nrsimha Maharaj. As I remember, Maharaj once, a long time ago, Maharaj actually corrected me. And I said, Nrsimha Swami Maharaj. Maharaj said, no, my name is Nrsimha, it's not Swami. Am I correct, Maharaj? I
Yes.
remember you corrected me. Once in MI, you corrected me.
Okay.
And I have a very, I would like to say about Maharaj without further ado, that Maharaj is very straight and very humble. Yes, I am reminded a long time ago this happened during Maharaj told us this thing that somebody introduced Maharaj during a Bhagavatam class as a Diksha Guru, and Maharaj kind of stopped him. He said, I'm not a Diksha Guru, that's not my designation, that's my relationship with my students. That's not the proper way to. So in that sense, Maharaj walks his talk and is very, very, I would say, he's an ideal. He's an ideal. I've had the very good fortune of studying from Maharaj for the past 15 years in various durations during Bhakti-Shastri, Bhakti-Vaibhav, and also in Bhakti-Vedanta. So I have seen Maharaj up close personal. He's really like an ideal. And we all from Pakistan here expect and we pray that we get that association and that kind of inspiration, Maharaj. So, thank you, Maharaj. Please.
So can we turn on the screen sharing? We'll share the screen.
I think you have the permission, Maharaj, I believe.
No, I tried. They told me there's not permission.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, we got it now?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good.
Maharaj.
So, are you able to see the screen okay?
Yes, Maharaj. See.
Okay, so this is the unit 3. Some points about the aim of the course here. Okay. This unit aims to deepen students' understanding of the workings of the 3 modes of material natures. 3 modes being Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, described in chapters 13 to 18, Bhagavad Gita. This unit aims to help students identify the symptoms of the 3 modes and become more aware of how these modes may be influencing them. Are the modes influencing you? Probably, yeah. Influencing all of us, right? A material energy, very powerful. And finally, this unit aims to equip students with skills required to elevate themselves to Sattva Gun and ultimately transcendence. Well, I hope most of you are probably already there in Sattva Gun, and maybe even many of you are in transcendence. I hope so. That would be nice. Anyway, that's the aims. And here's the things we're going to be covering, the main points of the different lessons. Entanglement in the modes of nature. That's mainly dealing chapter 14. And then the banyan tree in Purushottam Yoga, that's chapter 15. Divine and demonic nature, 16, chapter 16. Divisions of faith, chapter 17. and surrender to Krishna, chapter 18. All right, so we have to go through all these. We want to come up to the okay, so anyway, we're going to begin with chapter 13. It's a philosophical chapter. I will just show you the main points which are there in the chapter before we start looking at the chapter, the different headings. Chapter 13, of course, you know, you've been studying the first 12 chapters, so the first 6 chapters were mainly talking about how by work you could come to bhakti. And then chapter 7 to chapter 12, Lord Krishna was speaking more about bhakti. And now chapter 13, we're going to learn how by knowledge, by gyan, you can also come to bhakti. All right. And the chapter 13 begins with Arjuna's question. He wants to know about the meaning of these different terms, right? Kshetra and Kshetrajna, and these different other things you want to know about, the knower, jnana and vijnana, the knowledge, process of knowledge, object of knowledge. Wants to know about prakriti and purush. That's the more difficult thing. Krishna doesn't speak about that first. He starts with the easiest thing, Kshetra and Kshetrajna. All right, so this is how the 13th chapter is made up. These different points. We'll spend time tonight looking at the 13th chapter. No, we're not going to go on to that. Want to be on the 13th chapter. Let me just remove this. Okay. So then, okay. All right, so here we have 13th chapter. Arjuna begins with his question. Right? Oh, my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge, and the object of knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." Right? So the field, Kshetra, you're all familiar with these words. Living in the country you're in, you'll speak a language not very much different from Sanskrit. So a lot of these words are there. You're very familiar with them. So Kshetra, the field, the body is a field, right? And a field is known by what you plant there. Just like you may have a field of rice, you may have a field of wheat, you may have a field which is very poor soil, you can't grow anything, it's just swamp or it's just weeds and bushes and you can't do anything with it. So there's different kinds of fields. So we want to understand. There's some. What is happening? The voice is being echoed back all the time.
No, Maharaj, it's fine. It's not echoing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the field of activities. If you plant melons, then you harvest melons. And if you plant beans, then you will harvest beans. There's a famous saying like that in China. They say like that. You know, the point being is you get the results of what you plant. You can't expect to get good results if you work in a bad way. If you do everything sinful, don't expect to get good results. So it's important for us to understand how to use this body. Right? Just as it mentions here, Krishna immediately begins to address Arjuna's third topic by identifying the body as the field. He also deals with the fourth topic by saying that the soul is the knower of the field. The knower of the field, the Kshetrajna. You've got the Kshetra, the field, and the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. We had a nice devotee, Kshetrajna, in Prabhupada's time. I haven't seen him for a long time. So, in texts 1 to 7, Krishna will continue to explain the field of activities and the knower of the field. In text 3, he will also begin to explain knowledge, the fifth topic about which Arjuna inquired. All right, Prakriti and Purush, that will come later. More complex. Easy things first. So the body, the Kshetra, and the knower of the body, the soul, the Kshetrajna, the knower of the body. So there are two knowers in the body, of course. We will be hearing about that. We have one body, but there are two knowers in the body. We'll discuss that when we come to it. Anyway, text 3, go after Arjuna's question, then text 3, and it's very important question, a very important verse, because Shankaracharya and the Mayavadis, they like to use text number 3 to support their Mayavadi philosophy. Text number 3, O Sayano Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. All right? So Krishna is giving us his definition. What is knowledge? Knowledge means to understand the body and its knower. So common people, they understand the body. Not many of them understand that there's also a knower in the body. And even less people will understand that there are two knowers in the body. So this verse is used by people like the Mayavadis to present their Mayavadi philosophy. Prabhupada introduces the concept of the super soul here. The living entity, as the Kshetrajna, knows his own body, but Krishna says that another Kshetrajna knows all bodies. that Kshetrajna is the super soul. And then he gives the example, an important example. A farmer, like the soul, knows all about his own field. But the king, like the super soul in everyone's heart, is the ultimate controller and knower of each and every field in his kingdom. In addition, the soul can only imperfectly know his own body. The super soul has complete and perfect knowledge of all bodies. All right, so this is the example, the difference between the soul and the super soul. We know about our own field, but the landlord or the king, they know about all the fields. They own everything. We only know about our own particular field, the field in which we're working. We know about our own happiness and distress, but we cannot understand others' happiness and distress. That is not so easy thing. We know about our own feelings, but to understand others, that is the super soul. Krishna is in the heart of everyone, and he, as the super soul, he knows about each and every person's happiness and distress. And then Prabhupada talks about knowledge. Jnana. Jnana is known. It's knowing the body, the soul, and the super soul, right? We said two knowers of the body. There's the soul and the super soul. So this will be discussed in text 8 to 12, and then later text 24 to 37, where he will explain the process of achieving knowledge. So perfect knowledge is described. Perfect knowledge that is to understand the constitution of the body, of the soul, and of the super soul. So that is how Vedic literature describes Gyan. So Shankaracharya and other impersonalists have commented extensively on this verse, and they use the word cha. And you should know that he who is the knower within the body is also me. Also me, capital me. In other words, the soul is the same as the super soul. So this is an important point brought out in this chapter, whether or not there is one soul or two souls. You know, there's the Advaita philosophy, where there's one soul, and there's Dvaitism, where there are two souls. For example, Madhvacharya, he preached Dvaitism, two souls. But Shankaracharya, he preached monism. What is monism, or the Advaita philosophy? That one soul. One time there was one magazine, it was called Bhavan's Journal, published in New Delhi. So that they came to see Srila Prabhupada, and they asked Srila Prabhupada about this. One of the questions they asked Prabhupada, who is right, monism or dualism? Is there one soul or are there two souls? And Prabhupada said, they are both right. Let them both chant Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada didn't get into a big philosophical argument. He thought, let everybody just chant Hare Krishna. So in arguing with people, you often find you don't get very far. Trying to argue with the impersonalists, very difficult. You know, they have a lot of arguments themselves. We may spend a lot of time arguing with them. What we're encouraged to do is chant Hare Krishna, chant the Mahamantra, and then we distribute prasadam. Get them all to chant Hare Krishna. Just like when Lord Chaitanya was in Benares, he met with Prakashananda Saraswati. Now usually he would not meet with the Mayavadi sannyasis, but for the sake of his two devotees, that was Tapana Mishra and Chandrasekhar, they were having difficulty. They could not defeat the Buddhists and the followers of Shankaracharya. So Lord Chaitanya helped them by attending a meeting with the Mayavadi sannyasis. And when he attended the meeting with them at that time, he discussed with Prakashananda Saraswati the philosophy of Vedanta. And Lord Chaitanya convinced them about the importance of chanting the Mahamantra. And they all chanted. Lord Chaitanya's preaching was a success because he got them to chant the Mahamantra. And when they chanted the Mahamantra, after that, then Lord Chaitanya took prasadam with them. Usually he would never take prasad with the Mayavadis, but after they chanted Hare Krishna, he thought, now they're purified. Now I can take prasad with them. Otherwise, we don't associate with these people. But Lord Chaitanya was preaching so nicely that he got them to chant the Mahamantra. And then thought, now they're chanting, now they're devotees. Their devotional life has begun. All right, so anyway, Bharijan Prabhu gives some arguments about how to challenge the Mayavadi philosophy. There was a nice example. It concerned Giriraj. Giriraj, now he's Giriraj Swami, but when he was a young devotee, when he was a brahmachari, he was in Boston, and he was walking there in the street one day, distributing literature. So he met one young man, and the young man was arguing with Giriraj, and he was telling to the young man, he said, it's all one. It's all one. This is the monist philosophy, right? That everything is one. There's only one soul, and we're all one. And the goal is to merge into the oneness. So this man was talking about the oneness to Giriraj. And so Giriraj said to him, he said, oh, all right, if it's all one, then you should give me your car keys, because it's all one. You and I are one. We're not different. So you should give me your car keys. So the man brought out his car keys and gave them to Giriraj. And then Giriraj said to him, and you should give me all your money also. And so the man also got his wallet out and he gave all his money to Giriraj. And then Giriraj said, okay, thank you very much. Now I'm going. And the man said, hey, wait, give me back my car keys. Give me back my money. But Giriraj said, no, it's all one. We're all one. So you don't need the money. You don't need your car keys. Thank you. Right? So that was one example. You may be able to use that example sometime in your preaching, we often have to present our own personal philosophy to try to defeat Mayavadism. But we don't encourage devotees to spend a lot of time arguing with people. The best thing is to chant Hare Krishna mantra and to let them have prasadam, and they can get purified. But if we argue philosophy with them, we waste a lot of time and get nowhere. Another time, Prabhupada was in London, and he was preaching. One young man come. This young man was not a devotee. Anyway, he came and he was sitting there listening to Prabhupada. And then he started arguing, he started asking questions and, a little bit challenging questions. And Prabhupada would answer his questions one after another. Prabhupada would answer his questions. But the man was not being submissive. He was not really surrendering. And he kept asking more and more questions, not very nice questions. So then after some time, then Prabhupada got up and went for a walk. And he went for a walk for some time with the devotees. Then he came back. And when he came back, they passed the temple room. And Prabhupada saw in the temple room the young man who'd been arguing with him. He was in the temple room and he was taking part in the kirtan. He was chanting and dancing. And Prabhupada said, "This is how to preach." Prabhupada said, "This is the best way to preach. Let people join in the kirtan." He said, "You see, I gave him so many arguments." And Prabhupada's arguments, of course, were very powerful and pure, but they were not going into the man's head. But when the man went to the temple room, took part in the kirtan, he's chanting and dancing, then he's getting some purification because the holy name is coming from the devotees. Okay? So we often have to face Mayavadis, and Prabhupada's pranam mantra is like that. Nirvishesha shunyavadi paschatya desatarine. Preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya, Gauravani Precharine. Right? We're preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya in the Western world just to defeat impersonalism and voidism. These are the two enemies of the Vaishnava, Mayavada and Sunyavada. So we try to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya and deliver people from those ignorant philosophies. So this verse, this third verse in the 13th chapter, this is often taken by the Mayavadis, by the Jnanavadis, by the monists. They will take it and say, it's all one, you see. It says so in Bhagavad Gita. Because they can interpret the Bhagavad Gita in that way. Okay. So any questions on this so far? Anybody like to tell us how they defeat Mayavadi philosophy when you come across it? When you meet people who are Mayavadis, how do you deal with them?
Maharaj going to get a lot of chance there back in Pakistan. There are a lot of Mayavadis out there.
A lot of Mayavadis there, yeah, right. So how do you deal with them? What is your approach?
Yeah, there you got a hand up, Maharaj.
Yes? So who's got their hand up? Let them.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji, please accept my humble obeisances. It's Hari Pirala Devidasi. Maharaj Ji, as you shared some experiences or pastimes, so what we learn is that we don't argue with that monist philosophers, we just ask them to chant Hare Krishna and give them prasadam. This is what we can do.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right approach. I think that's the right thing to do. Chant Hare Krishna and give them prasad. Make friends with them. Actually, most people, although they may accept Mayavadi philosophy, they can easily be changed, you know. Yes, somebody else has their hand up.
Maharaj, I had a question. First of all, Dhanavad. I don't know where is the hand raise button, so I'm directly asking you. May I?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Maharaj, like in the translation of the verse, Krishna in the end says, "That is my opinion." So Krishna has already established in the previous chapters himself as the supreme controller. So why does Krishna keep repeating this? That is my opinion. Although Krishna can simply say his whatever he wants to thoughts in very possible way. Why there's the bit of a scope for the opinion or such kind of word?
Well, he wants to confirm, you know, he wants to make it clear that this is how he thinks of things. You'll see in the next verse, or text number 5, you will see how it's not only Krishna, but other things are also required. You know, we say Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. Sadhu, Shastra and Guru all should be there. So, Krishna is the original Guru, he's the original teacher. And as you said, he's already been accepted as the highest truth. He himself said in the 7th chapter, "There's no truth superior to me. Everything rests on me." So Krishna is saying, this is my opinion. So we should understand this is his opinion. This must be how it is. Because Krishna says like this, so no need to accept anybody else's opinion. Just hear from Krishna. And the 7th chapter also said, "Now hear from me, O Arjuna." So this Krishna is saying, this is my opinion. So we accept Krishna's opinion. We follow Krishna. So Krishna is telling us what is his opinion. All right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, any other question or any other comments? Any other hands up?
There are a couple of messages there, Maharaj.
Yeah, let's hear them.
One of them is like, I will use Dhiraswai Maharaj method. And the other one is like the same as you said, distribute prasadam, they will take this Bina. This is from Bina. Yeah. मैंने प्रभु को बता दिया. Okay, fine, yeah. That's what is Maharaj.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead. All right, so in surrender unto me, Barijan Prabhu quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's given some examples. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says, like a farmer, the Kshetrajna is also the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree in his field, as described by the personality of Godhead. And then they talk about the village vultures and the swans. So the village vultures, they come and grab the food, and the swans, they're in the lake, and they eat. They're enjoying on a different level. the vultures, they eat the fruit of misery. He said, even if they attain heaven, their experience is ultimately miserable. The swans living in the forest, however, are like liberated jivas. They eat the fruit of happiness. The complete enjoyment or liberation is derived from their experience. Thus, the one tree of material existence appears in many forms. As a means of attaining hell, heaven, and liberation, because it is born from the Lord's external energy. It is called Maya Mayam. By the grace of the worshipable spiritual master, one is made to understand this tree. Those who are in knowledge of the Kshetra and Kshetrajna actually know the Vedas. All right. So the bodily platform, people in the bodily platform, they're identifying with their material body, their material situation. But the Kshetra is just a field. Just like you enter into a house, you don't become the house. You live in the house. The same way the living entity, he may have a field of work. He doesn't become the field. He's working on the same way. We use the body for work. And we can work in a good way, we can work in a bad way. We can work in the mode of goodness, or the mode of passion, or the mode of ignorance. We want to be conscious of how we're working. All right, so this is something about the and the field, the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. We need to know there's one field, one Kshetra, and there's two Kshetrajnas, the soul and the super soul. But the Mayavadis, they will argue there's only one. Anyway, Lord Krishna continues to explain the field of activities and its knower in the next text. Right? The field of activities and its knower. The field of activities meaning the body. Please hear my brief description of this field of activities and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. So all of these questions will be answered in the course of this chapter, right? And if you can see here that each of these questions have been answered, and we're told where we can find the answers. And we're told that Lord Krishna will discuss these points, but he says he will explain them only in brief, because they are limitless topics. However, should Arjuna wish to know them in greater detail, then Krishna will tell Arjuna where such realizations can be found. And it's coming up in the next verse, text number 5. And this text number 5 is also another quite an important verse, because Lord Krishna is explaining where and how he's presenting this philosophy. Lord Krishna, he's not just saying, look, I'm God and you have to believe me. But Lord Krishna is presenting everything based on sadhu, shastra, and guru. And the 5th verse says, that knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. So there's sadhu and shastra. And it is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra, with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So Lord Krishna even recommends which particular shastra we can look at to confirm the philosophy. He says Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra, sometimes it's called Brahma Sutras. Anyway, this Vedanta Sutra is written by Srila Vyasadeva, and it's very difficult for people to actually understand Vedanta. Veda means knowledge and Anta means the end. So Vedanta means the end of knowledge. So, okay, we're interested to know the end of knowledge, but it's put in the form of a sutra. So sutra means it's condensed. It's, just like you have condensed milk. You boil the milk down, you thicken the milk. So Vedanta Sutra, the Vedic knowledge, Vedas is very vast. There are so many books, vast. But the Vedanta Sutra is where everything is condensed, it's brought down into a more concise form. But because it's a sutra, because it's sutras, it's difficult to understand. And the Mayavadis, the followers of Shankaracharya, they like to just study Vedanta Sutra. That's their business. That's what they do all the time. They just study Vedanta, read Vedanta, and they criticize Lord Chaitanya. They said he's not studying Vedanta. They thought Lord Chaitanya did not know Vedanta. But of course, when they talked to Lord Chaitanya, then they found out actually he knew the Vedanta, because he's the author and he's the compiler of the Vedas. So Lord Chaitanya could convince him by his own arguments, by his own philosophy. So we also study Vedanta in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the authorized commentary on Vedanta. The Mayavadis, they like to make their own commentary. They will read so many bogus Mayavadi statements, but we simply stick with the Vaishnava commentaries. Srila Vyasadeva, he wrote the commentary on Vedanta Sutra, and then afterwards, also Baladeva Vijayabhusan, he also wrote a commentary, an important commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So we're very fortunate. We have so many wonderful scriptures to support our philosophy. So Lord Krishna, anyway, he's showing that you want to establish a point, you should have three. You should have sadhus, you should have shastra, and you should have guru. So all three are important. If you only have two and you miss one, then something is wrong. It's very important that you have all three. That what we're saying, what we're doing is supported by sadhus, by Shastra, and by our Guru. So sometimes we will do an exercise on that, and we'll ask the devotees that we want you to tell us what happens if you didn't have Shastra, if you only had Sadhu and Guru, you had no Shastra, what would happen? Yeah, I mean, there are people like that. Of course, there are people who have, they speak so much. They don't have any Shastra, they don't follow any Shastra. They just speak and they say, I've realized everything myself. No. But of course, what they've realized is something impersonal. They have not realized the actual truth. But these kind of things in the Kali Yuga, they become prominent. And you can see here, quoting the point which Prabhu brought up, that Krishna had said in text 3, that is my opinion. Although he has already established his position as the Supreme Lord, he nonetheless refers to two other authorities to substantiate his words. Krishna, in the role of Guru, presents corresponding references to Sadhu and Shastra. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the highest authority in explaining this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Krishna is explaining this most controversial point regarding the duality and non-duality of the soul and the supersoul by referring to scriptures, the Vedanta, which is accepted as authority. All right. So this is an important point here to understand Sadhu, Shastra and Guru, and Lord Krishna also. Although he is the Supreme Lord, he also quotes Sadhus and Shastra. And then Prabhupada then goes on to talk about the different levels of Brahman as they're described in the Upanishads. There's a description about different levels of understanding the Brahman from the Taittiriya Upanishad. 5 different levels are mentioned, right? You have Annamaya, Jnanamaya, Pranamaya, Vijnanamaya, and then Anandamaya. So Annamaya is the lowest level, just like a baby. When the baby's just born, they only know food. They open their eyes, they just want food. They want to drink the milk from their mother, like that. So a baby just only knows food, doesn't know anything else. That's the lowest level, the lowest level of consciousness, where we're just dependent on food. But a little higher than Annamaya is Pranamaya. And in Pranamaya there's consciousness, more than just food, but there's consciousness also about one can see and taste and hear, different sense objects are all active. Pranamaya. So Pranamaya, the life symptoms. You want to save the life. And then Vijnanamaya. Oh, what is it? Pranamaya? Jnanamaya. Jnanamaya, it's the life symptoms moving. Again, but still material, on the material platform. But above that is Vijnanamaya and then Anandamaya. Anandamaya being the topmost level, where you realize the full level of the Brahman. And Anandamaya, and then Vijnanamaya, that is also coming to the transcendental level, coming beyond, above the modes of nature. So the example is given about 5 different levels of Brahman. Okay, in the purport it said, one experiencing the Annamaya stage experiences a unifying oneness by viewing all as potential food. A little child born, all they know is food. They don't know anything else. So such a consciousness makes no distinction between that which is alive and that which is not. It does not even possess any awareness of its own existence as separate from the existence of all else. Although the self-concept is the most basic form of consciousness, it is nevertheless also a manifestation of the Lord's energy. So the Lord's energy, the Brahman, and how it's realized in different levels. They're called different koshas, or different layers of realization.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. May I ask a couple of questions? Actually, there are students who are sending me questions.
Okay.
To those questions. Maybe they are a little feeling intimidated. I don't know. There's one hand up also. This one first question from Mahak Mulani. She is asking that when you're talking about Vedic authority, so somebody can ask, like, how do we know that Vedic authority is perfect? Or if we extend that question to say that, like, Prabhupada's books are correct, a correct source of knowledge, how do we know that? That is, like, how can we find an impartial evidence?
Vedic knowledge, first of all, Vedic knowledge is aparusha, does not come from any conditioned soul. Now, can we stop that echoing? It does not come from any conditioned soul. It's perfect knowledge, and we accept the Vedas as being absolute knowledge. There's no fault ever found in the Vedic knowledge. Just like Bhagavad Gita, it's an eternal Shastra. There's no fault in it. It doesn't have to, it's never revised, it's not out of date. It's eternal knowledge. And we accept it as being the absolute truth, that everything described there in the Shastra is perfect. No one can find any fault with it. Well, you cannot say that there's anything wrong in the knowledge which is presented there in Bhagavad Gita or in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's all perfect knowledge. The Bible has been revised so many times. They try to bring it to another level. They change the words. The Bible used to say, "Thou shalt not kill." But then when people started saying, "You see, the Bible said thou shalt not kill, but you're killing so many animals." So then they took the word kill out and they put, "Thou shalt not commit murder." They made it like that. They said, see, murder now is we shouldn't commit murder. So they find ways to get people to accept their thought. So how do we know the Vedic knowledge is perfect? How do we know it's not perfect? Can you show me something which is wrong? Anything which is said there in the Bhagavad Gita which is wrong? Can you point out any one mistake in it? No, it's all perfect knowledge. Yes, you got some more questions here?
It's Nagaman Maharaj, Barkha. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. My question is basically the word field of activities. Are we referring to the physical body only, or the mind or intelligence too? Like a person is not only a body, but he is not either the mind.
Yeah, the subtle body is there. The subtle body is also there with the gross body. Yeah, at the Kshetra. So the Kshetra is both the physical gross body and the subtle body.
Wow. Okay. And Maharaj, one more question. So it's like we do have a limit of harvesting the crops. Like if we want to plant something, we have to usually take a good care of it to harvest, the good crops, right? So, but we have seen really great examples of the saints of in the ancient times. They used to go beyond their bodily health and used to do the great tap and tapasyas to attain the spiritual realization. So is it like, even though I am not this body, we have to go beyond this capacity of the body to get the spiritual realization?
Well, we have to come out of the bodily concept of life to get realization. Yes, you have to give up that bodily concept of life. If you're in the bodily concept of life, then you won't have any thought of higher transcendence, of higher knowledge, because you're so much on the physical platform. You're just attached to the body, and the body means the senses, and we're thinking about enjoying the senses. We're just thinking about how to get that pleasure for the senses. You don't think about the real business of life. You don't think about the higher purpose of life, about the soul. We're only thinking about the body. And so people who are attached to the body, they're attached to everything material, and they're very afraid of death. So Prabhupada says, for the materialistic people, God comes as death, to take everything away from them. You understand?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, accept my humble obeisances. As you said that never ever find any fault in the Bhagavad Gita or any Shastras, but how can we know that the knowledge comes from Guru Parampara is correct or authentic?
Well, we have to hear from the acharyas, right? These acharyas, they're not cheaters. You may go to scientists, and they may be cheaters. Modern philosophers and so on. These people, they're not self-controlled, realized people. They're just sense gratifiers, and they're engaged in all kinds of sinful life. But we're taking knowledge from the Mahajans, from the Acharyas, and they're perfect in their standard of behavior. They control their mind and senses. They're not attached to material sense gratification. They live a life of self-control, and they're an example for everyone. So yeah, we can trust them. They're not cheaters like these other people who are so-called scientists and so on. They're often womenizers and drunkards and meat eaters and everything. We can't trust these kind of people. But we can trust acharyas, we can trust the great line of parampara, that they're all great souls and they're very fixed in their behavior and they show a perfect example for everyone. So we can trust these people, right? But we don't trust materialistic people. They may be big scientists, they may be Nobel Prize winners or whatever, but actually they could be men of the lowest standards of behavior. You understand?
Yes, but there is another question in the chat box, sorry. Especially in the Pakistan or in India or I think so many countries, there are so many types of Bhagavad Gita present here. So how can we convince the people to not follow other Gita?
Yes, there are many different editions of Bhagavad Gita. So you have to find out what is the authorized edition of Bhagavad Gita. You have to see who's actually presenting the Bhagavad Gita, the message of Lord Krishna, and who's using the Bhagavad Gita to present their own philosophy. Just like so many these Bhagavad Gitas, the people who present the Bhagavad Gita, they use it to present their own philosophy. They don't present Krishna's message. They're simply using Krishna's name to present their own philosophy. So these people are cheaters and rascals. And there's so many Bhagavad Gitas like that. So we have to be intelligent. We have to distinguish who's really presenting the Bhagavad Gita and who's just using it to present who's using the Bhagavad Gita to present their own philosophy. You see, Prabhupada wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is, but he said the other people, they're making Bhagavad Gita as they want it to be, or as they think it should be. But they don't know what is really the message of Lord Krishna. So people in the past, although there were so many Bhagavad Gitas, there were no real devotees. The people were not becoming devotees. There were so many different editions of Bhagavad Gita, but people weren't really they were not taking up the real spiritual practice. So the Bhagavad Gita was not being really utilized properly, because Bhagavad Gita is meant to teach people how to become devotees. You're meant to see people actually become devotees from reading Bhagavad Gita and take up the practice of bhakti yoga. But it didn't happen until people like Srila Prabhupada came and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and like that. They came and they were writing and publishing and preaching. All right?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
All right, any other questions there? Are we okay? So Srila Prabhupada writes from Srila Prabhupada's purport, to enjoy his transcendental bliss, the Supreme Lord expands into Vijnanamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, and Annamaya. In the field of activities, the living entity is considered to be the enjoyer, and different from him is the Anandamaya. That means that if the living entity decides to enjoy in dovetailing himself with the Anandamaya, then he becomes perfect. This is the real picture of the Supreme Lord as the supreme knower of the field, and the living entity as the subordinate knower, and the nature of the field of activities. One has to search for the truth in the Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra. Right? So the 5th verse is very important because it shows how Lord Krishna is recommending not just only one person's opinion, but there should be all three, Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. You have to confirm with these 3 authorities. And if you've got these 3 authorities, then you are correct. You've got the right answer. All right, so then we'll go ahead, verses 6 and 7, we're going to hear about jnana. Oh, first we're hearing about the field of activities. The field of activities and its interactions. Right? What is the field of activity? Remember? What did we say was the field of activity? We said the material, the body is the field of activities. Right? So what is that body? Mataji was asking here, you can see here. She was saying, is it just a physical body? No. There's a gross body and a subtle body. They make up the field of activities. So the body is described. 5 great elements, then false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects. So all of that, this is the field of activities. And then its interactions are described. Interactions are there. Desire, hatred, happiness, distress. The aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions, these different things. This is the interactions of the field of activity. So what are the 10 senses? 10 senses means 5 knowledge acquiring senses and 5 working senses. 5 great elements, you know what they are. And then, so this is the field of activity. It says here, text 6 lists the 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind and the jiva, the mind and the 5 sense objects, 24 material elements. And text 7 describes 7 qualities of the mind derived from the interactions of the 24 elements. These qualities are also within the realm of the living entity's field of activities. So the changes of the body are mentioned, right? We know that changes of the body are undergone. The changes are, first of all, the body is born, then it grows, then it stays for some time, then it produces byproducts, then it begins to decay, and at the last stage, it vanishes, death, right? So 6 different changes of the body. Every living entity who has a material body, their body is going to go through these different changes. We take birth, we remain for some time, produce some byproducts, meaning you may have a child or something, and then the body gets old, and then eventually it's going to die. Everybody. Everyone, we're all going to go through these stages, right? But for a devotee is not very much worried about death because he knows the nature of the body. The body is doomed to die. We take birth in a body, one day we have to give up the body. And death is just a change of the body. So Prabhupada writes, or rather Bharijan Prabhu writes, the field is a non-permanent material thing. However, the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field, its proprietor, is different. And then Bharijan goes on, he gives an example about the child in a playground, or he's in a garden, and he's put inside a garden with a big fence around it. And so inside the garden he has his toys and everything, and he's playing happily, but he can't go beyond the garden, he can't go beyond the fence. There's a big fence and the gate's locked. So the child is playing in his garden. In the same way the living entity is playing in his field of activities, enjoying his life in the field of activities. But we're stuck in the body. We can't go beyond the body. He gives the example, an earthworm has a very small field of activities. He cannot read, he cannot write, he cannot jump or run. He can only crawl through the dirt. And when it is on the surface, when it rains, and when it stops raining, then he can crawl back into the soil. And a dog has a relatively larger field of activities. And a human being has a still larger field. So one's kshetra is based on his karma. Right? The body which we have, it's the reactions of our past karma. And the same way, the activities which we're doing now, we're preparing for the body in the future. All right? So the field of activities, the body, 24 elements. So some children are wealthy and some children are not so wealthy. So the wealthy child, he is given so many things to play with. So similarly, the living entity, according to the limitations of the body and mind, is received through his karma. He cannot see beyond his limited field of activities. He can only see his own activities. So every living entity's kshetra, or field of activities, or body, is arranged by his karma through the agency of Maya. Krishna, therefore, is not partial, because as a super soul, he simply sanctions the awarding of every living entity's field of activities. All right. So we've explained the field of activities, and now we're going to hear about the process of knowledge, jnana and gya. The process which helps the living entity transcend his insignificant and limited backyard. So this is text 8 to 12, and text 8 to 12 you can see number of different qualities are listed there. 20 qualities are given, right? For particularly begin with amanitvam adambitvam, humility and pridelessness. And so all these different qualities I declare to be knowledge. And besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. I remember one time one Shankaracharya came in Hong Kong and he was lecturing, and he mentioned about this actually. He quoted this verse which begins, amanitvam adambitvam, humility and pridelessness. What happened was the Shankaracharya man was talking to some young students, and the young students were saying, oh, knowledge is important. We need to get our material education. We need to go to university. We have to study, get our degrees. But Shankaracharya said to them, well, according to Bhagavad Gita, real knowledge begins like this. Amanitvam adambitvam, humility and pridelessness. This is real knowledge. And of course, at the modern times, we don't see that kind of knowledge very prominent. But in Bhagavad Gita, this is the basis of knowledge. And it mentions also, of course, constant and unalloyed devotion as being one of the qualities, the main quality here for one in knowledge. Okay. We'll read the purport. This is a continuation of Krishna's explanation of knowledge. Krishna has already defined knowledge as knowing the field and the two knowers of the field. These verses describe the process of obtaining jnana. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, of the 20 items mentioned, 17 apply to both the jnani and the bhakta. The last two, namely accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth, are technically only for the jnani. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me is the sole quality specifically for the devotee. All other qualities come to a devotee who exclusively endeavors for constant, unalloyed devotion. So, if we can develop constant, unalloyed devotion, all the other qualities will also be there. We want to focus on trying to develop that kind of devotion, constant, unalloyed devotion. For one who's a devotee has all the good qualities of the demigods. He's blessed by all the demigods, and they bestow their blessings on him, and he will develop all the good qualities. These 20 items include qualities such as cleanliness, which, if developed, are favorable for spiritual advancement, and elements of the process of advancement, such as approaching a spiritual master and perceiving the evil of birth, death, disease, and old age. Integrated as a process, these items are the means of acquiring transcendental knowledge, or our accurate understanding of the body, soul, and the super soul. Srila Prabhupada explains the relationship between the process of knowledge and the field of activities. The process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent man as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. Right? That's what we really want to do. We want to get out of the entanglement of the material energy. So the process of knowledge described. In the next set of verses, 13 to 19, Krishna addresses Arjuna's sixth topic, the object of knowledge. Okay, have we got any more questions so far? Anybody? Before we go on to hear about Gyam, Jnana, and Gya, the knowable.
क्या करेंगे आपको
Is somebody there can tell me what's happening?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I have some confusion in text 5, the 5 stages of Brahman realization. I just want to know that like the Anandmaya stage, it is that stage, the highest Brahman realization. But in that it is mentioned that one will feel the blissful loving relationship. But in Brahman realization, like a bliss demands reciprocation, and in Brahman realization that is impersonalism. We can't get reciprocation or blissful relationship with that. So why we are not saying that it is the start of the Bhagavan realization? Why we are saying it is the end of the or highest of Brahman realization? Even after Brahman realization, we come to the realization of Paramatma. But we are saying that it is Anandamaya, the realization of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I have a confusion in that, Maharaj.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to understand that they're presenting this about the different levels of Brahman. Not necessarily that you have to understand it as Brahman realization, but just understanding the Brahman, the spiritual existence. That there is such a thing as spiritual existence. And coming to the level of Brahman, yeah, you're right, there's not a lot of enjoyment there, but there's no suffering there. That is the main symptom of the Brahman, that there's no suffering there. But the happiness of Brahman is nothing compared to the happiness of pure devotional service. But still, there's some feeling of happiness there. Just that happiness of coming to the level of Brahman, free from the material body, detached. So, the people on the level of Brahman, they don't know anything more. They feel comfortable, they feel happy, they feel safe, they don't feel there are any difficulties. Of course, if they go on, they can come to something much higher.
So even in Brahman realization, one can make that loving relationship with the absolute truth. Is it possible, Maharaj?
If one is on the level of Brahman?
Yeah, if one is in the level of Brahman realization, at last he can make the loving relationship, even in the Brahman realization, Brahman stage.
Well, a devotee also realizes the Brahman, one who is a devotee, he also will realize the Brahman, right? It's all included in bhakti. That if we know Bhagavan, we will also know Brahman. It's not like we neglect the Brahman. So if one is doing bhakti, he will also know the Brahman. You can experience something of the different levels of realization of the Brahman. A devotee is not unaware of these things. He also knows about the Brahman.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
All right, so the term Geyam, knowable, and it signifies the object of knowledge about which Arjuna inquired in text 1. So Srila Prabhupada clearly mentions here that there are two knowable objects. The Lord has explained the field of activities and the knower of the field, and has also explained the process of knowing the knower of the field of activities. Now he begins to explain the knowable. First the soul, and then the super soul. Right? There are two knowables. There's the soul and the super soul. By knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the super soul, one can relish the nectar of life. So text 14 to 18 will describe the super soul as the Geyam. And this text, as Srila Prabhupada explains, describes the first object of knowledge, the soul. The description of Brahman mentioned in this verse is in relation to the individual soul. And when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is to be understood that he is Vijnana Brahman, as opposed to Ananda Brahman. Ananda Brahman is the Supreme Brahman, personality of Godhead. These terms Ananda and Vijnana refer to the discussion in text 5, where the terms Ananda Maya and Vijnana Maya were discussed. All right? So, we want to understand these words. Vijnana Maya, different from Ananda Maya. Ananda Maya is Krishna, and Vijnana Maya is a living entity. So living entity is Brahman. Right? So we're hearing, this is text 13. 13 is describing about the soul, and 14 to 18 is describing about the super soul. Text 14, everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. So this is a nice impersonal kind of verse, The Jnanavadis, they will love this kind of verse. It's something like what we find in the Upanishads. So, of course, it's describing the super soul, not the living entity. But if we study Srimad Bhagavatam, And you look at 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, text 1, Srila Prabhupada describes those who wish to understand this verse as referring to the living entity as all-pervading may properly do so. The kingdom of God is unlimited. Therefore, the number of the assisting hands of the Lord is also unlimited. And then in that purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verse 14, asserts that the Lord has his hands, legs, eyes, and mouths in every nook and corner of his creation. This means that the expansions of differentiated parts and parcels called jivas, or living entities, are assisting hands of the Lord, and all of them are meant for rendering a particular pattern of service to the Lord. All right? So living entities, also the hands of the Lord. We heard in the verse, everywhere are his hands, his eyes, legs, everywhere. And he has ears. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. But it can also be the living entity, because we are also parts of the body of the Supreme Lord. And then 15, 16 also describing about the super soul, the knowable. Krishna describes the knowable as avigyayam, unknowable. Right? He's the knowable, but he's described as unknowable. Indicates that the super soul cannot be understood by the material senses. Only by hearing with devotion from transcendental senses can he be understood. Right? We can't understand the super soul by material senses. You have to hear. Text 17. He appears to be divided among all beings, but he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Right? How many super souls are there? How many super souls are there online tonight? Only one, right?
One, yes.
Yeah, there's only one super soul everywhere. Super soul is one. So he's situated in everyone's heart. He's beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. All right, so this is the Gayam, the knowable, the super soul. The super soul and the jiva is also Gayam, also knowable. Srila Prabhupada kindly informed us earlier in his translations and purports to verses 14, 15, and 17 that the Supreme Knowable Object, who has been described as unknowable, is nevertheless situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. And Srila Prabhupada cited several verses from Swetasvatara Upanishad to substantiate that these Gita texts have been describing neither the living entity nor Brahman, but the super soul. Krishna ends his explanation of the knowable by describing to Arjuna the qualification of one able to understand these topics. Right? And the qualification is, only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So Krishna, only the devotees. Srila Prabhupada said the Lord has described in summary the body, knowledge, and the knowable. This knowledge is of three things: the knower, the knowable, and the process of knowledge. Combined, these are called Vijnana, or the science of knowledge. Perfect knowledge can be understood by the unalloyed devotee of the Lord directly. Others are unable to understand. So Prabhupada has also written an important summary about everything which has been mentioned in this chapter. We'll just read it to you, just to bring it to your attention. Now, to summarize, one may understand that verses 6 and 7, beginning from Mahabhutani and continuing through Chaitanya Dhru, analyze the material elements and certain manifestations of the symptoms of life. These combine to form the body or the field of activities. And verse 8 through 12, from Amanitvam through what is it? Virajnana Ista Darshanam, describe the process of knowledge for understanding both types of knowers of the field of activities, namely the soul and the Supreme Lord, or the Super Soul. The three items have been described. Thus, three items have been described: the field of activities, the body, the process of understanding, and both the soul and the super soul. It is especially described here that only the unalloyed devotees of the Lord can understand these three items clearly. So for these devotees, Bhagavad Gita is fully useful. It is they who can attain the supreme goal, the nature of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. In other words, only devotees and not others can understand Bhagavad Gita and derive the desired result. So that's Prabhupada's purport. He's summarizing the main points of the chapter. It should be familiar. So then chapter goes on, verses 20 to 27, going to hear about Prakriti and Purush, which were the first two topics which Arjuna had asked about. Right? So Prakriti, material nature, and Purusha, the living entities. Actually, there's only one Purusha, and that is actually Lord Krishna. But all of us, we're thinking we're the Purusha, we're thinking we're the enjoyer. We're thinking we're the controller. So when we talk about Purusha, we generally think about the living entities. All right, so text. Krishna begins his explanation of how material nature Prakriti and the Purushas combine, as referred to in text 20 to 22 and 24, and to the Supersoul in text 23. Their union is described as anadi, beginningless. Speaking of this combination, Srila Prabhupada explains in his purports, actually, the living entity is originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within material nature. It really does not matter how these living entities are superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. So Krishna knows why we're in this material world. We don't have to worry about how we got here, but Krishna knows, and he's hoping. Krishna wants to see us all get out of this material world and go back to Godhead. This is our real business. So the topic comes up about who is the actual doer. Text 21 says, nature is the cause. Well, the living entity is the cause of the suffering and enjoyments in this world. And we're responsible for our own suffering. Text 22 in the 13th chapter is a very important verse, a verse which is often quoted, which you want to be familiar with. All right? Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte prakriti jaya gunai karanam gunasangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So, association with the material nature. According to our past, we're attracted to different kinds of association. We're attracted to different kinds of activities. Sometimes we want to enjoy the mode of goodness, sometimes we are in the mode of passion, and other times we find ourselves in the mode of ignorance. So, association will determine our happiness and distress. Krishna is actually the only Purusha or enjoyer. We are meant to cooperate with Lord Krishna and serve, but due to illusion, we try to compete. We try to imagine ourselves as the enjoyer. We try to exploit the modes of nature. The jiva, we get trapped in the cycle of birth and death because of our desire to enjoy. We become more and more entangled in the material nature. And then text 23 describes the actual Purusha, meaning the super soul. Two knowers in the body, so the super soul is being described there, 23. And if we understand the actual relationship between the soul and the super soul, then text 23 or 24 says, we will not take birth again. So texts 24 to 26 are describing the results of this knowledge. We get good knowledge, we'll get good results. Clear understanding of material nature, the super soul, the individual soul, and their interrelation makes one eligible to become liberated and turn to the spiritual atmosphere without being forced to return to the material nature. So are there any other methods by which we could get liberation? So text 24 describes some other methods. It says, some perceive the super soul through meditation, some do it through cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So, some are doing yoga, meditation, meditating on the Paramatma. Somebody else is cultivating knowledge, that says Sankhya Yoga, and in this way wants to know the super soul. And so other people are doing Niskam Karma Yoga, working without being attached to the results of work. Their primary means is understanding the super soul and is detached work. So these things have all been described earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, meditation and Sankhya and Niskam Karma Yoga is all there in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. So then 26 asks, what if we cannot do any of these things? Is there any hope for us? So, if they hear, because of their tendency to hear from authorities, then they also transcend the paths of birth and death. So this 26 is an important verse which we like to give importance to because it stresses the power of hearing. If we hear from authorities, that's really an important point for all of us to understand. We have to hear from the authorities, and then that can give us the desired result. Right? And then the last section, the final section, text 27 to the end of the chapter, that summarizes the information about what we've presented, and it tells us how to distinguish the soul or the field of activities from the knower of the field. In other words, how to distinguish the body and the soul. So Prakriti and Purusha, the Jiva, they have been united since time immemorial. So Krishna describes their existence in the next verse. You can see these verses. All right, I think that's enough on this 13th chapter. It's not a particularly important chapter for us. Except text 22 is very important. That's a good one. Are there any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
I have a question that in the verses we were studying, it said that all the bad and good things, like the annihilator, it comes from the Supreme Lord. It comes from Krishna. Then what about the results of the activities that we do? Aren't those the results of the deeds we did? Then how come we can say that it's coming from Krishna when it was our own deed?
Because you're a part of Krishna. Krishna's in your heart as the super soul, and he's telling you to do things. Sometimes you listen, sometimes you don't listen. So sometimes Krishna is trying to help us. It's a question of, the thief is coming to rob the house, and Krishna's in the heart. He's telling the thief, you can go to the house, you can rob there. And the people in the house, Krishna's in their heart, and he's telling them, you should guard the house, thieves will come and rob you. So Krishna's doing many things in the heart of different people. So, you're not doing really, you think you're doing, we're not doing. Krishna's there in the heart, it's the super soul. He is the overseer. He is the permitter of activities. And he knows everything. So sometimes Krishna is telling us, sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't listen. Usually we don't listen, but he's always there telling you.
Got it, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yes.
Maharaj.
Yes.
In the verse 3, there was stated that the three Brahma conception. Can you elaborate this?
Where?
Verse number 3.
What does it say?
Three Brahma conception.
I'll have to look at the text number 3. Can you read the sentence to me?
There are three Brahma conception. Prakriti is Brahma as the field of activities, and the Jiva's individual soul is also Brahma and is trying to control material nature, and the controller of both of them is also Brahma, but he is the factual controller. Second last paper of the verse 3.
Oh, yeah, I see. I've got that. Wait, I'm going to go back to the. I'm on this surrender unto me. This should. It's in the last paragraph? Oh, no, the second last, is it? There are three conceptions. There are three Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities. And the Jiva is also Brahman and is trying to control material nature. And the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller, yeah? You don't understand that?
Yeah, can you elaborate this?
Okay, so Prabhupada is explaining here that first of all, there's Lord Krishna, the factual controller. He's the supreme Brahman, right? The factual controller, the last one mentioned. The controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. So that is Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is Brahman, he's the supreme Brahman. Param Brahma, Param Dham, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, right? Arjuna said to Krishna, you're the supreme Brahman. Okay? And then there's also the living entity. We are also Brahman. We are tiny sparks of the Brahman. We are Jivas. The Jiva is Brahman. And here it's saying also Prakriti is also Brahman. It's a field of activities. Prakriti, the material nature, is also Brahman. Because it's all coming, it's Krishna's energy, everything. Sometimes Shankaracharya would quote, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. So we can understand Brahman in different ways. You can understand Brahman as being everything material. You can understand it as being the living entity. And you understand Brahman as being the Supreme Lord. You get it?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you are Brahman, right? Tattvamasi. You are Brahman, but we're not Parabrahman. Parabrahman is Krishna. And the material energy is also Brahman, because it's all coming from Krishna. It's Krishna's energy, so it's also Brahman. All right? You got it?
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, any other questions?
Was it Kashish?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. I want to say that Krishna wants us to get out of this material world. I also want to get out from this material world. But why an entity, especially, I want to say myself, that why I get entangled in like attachment with my family, or sometimes in Maya, very easily I am entangled. So why it has happened? However, I understand that this is the material world and I want to get out of this. So why it has happened again and again?
Well, you have to become more serious in your chanting. And you have to have a stronger desire to really want to get out. You know, if you really want to get out, you do it. You know, just like somebody wants to, if you want to get a scholarship to go to America, I knew one young lady in China, she was studying and she wanted to get a scholarship to go to America. She studied so careful. She memorized every word in the dictionary. You know, the whole dictionary, she memorized every word. You know, I thought she's so determined. And we have to really want something badly. If you're really serious about it, then you'll make greater efforts. But, you know, we think, oh, yeah, I want to go back to Godhead, but, you know, we get caught up, we watch television, you know, we don't chant around some days, you know, we fall behind, we don't go to program, we eat things which are not prasadam, we're not very strict with ourselves. So the more we're serious about the sadhana, the more we practice serious, then the easier it will be to make advancement. We have to become very conscious, very serious, that no, I want to go back to Godhead. I don't want to waste I don't want to take birth again. I don't want to come back again in this world. I want to get out. So we have to become very serious in our chanting, in our studying, in our talking about Krishna. Don't let Maya get too close with you. Don't get involved with the material energy, enjoying the material world. We should think, this world is a temporary place. So it's all misery from beginning to end. It's all misery. We don't want to come back again. If we come back again, then we have failed, right? If we have to take birth again, it means we've failed. We have that one book. Did you ever read that book? Coming Back, The Science of Self, The Science of Reincarnation. Did you read that book? You know the last chapter in the book? It says, the last chapter in the book is don't come back. Don't come back. If you come back, if we have to come back again, if we have to take birth again, it means we failed. Oh, gosh. Just like if you're studying at school, and you have an exam, and you fail the exam, you have to do the whole course again. You have to repeat the year. Oh, it's so terrible. So if we come back again, have to take birth again, oh gosh, make it so difficult. That's when a child is born, the baby's crying. He's thinking, oh no, here I go again, another birth. The baby's crying. Mother's happy, oh baby. But the child is crying, thinking, oh no, here we go again, another birth. So we have to become very serious, very committed. We have to work very hard, faithfully, and don't allow ourselves to get deviated. Don't go off into Maya. That's the only thing. The only problem is, we're not very careful. We get drawn off and go into a lot of other things. Watch the movies, so many things, the distractions. Have to be very careful. You really don't want to come back? Okay, good. Spiritual master doesn't want you to come back. He wants you to go back to Godhead. So he wants to see you're very serious. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. All right, any other questions? Is that someone's hand up?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I have a personal question. So when I have recently relocated to another city, so everything for me in my spiritual life has changed, like the friendships and the people. And it's a completely different city that I live right now. So I want to understand how to be careful in devotee friendships, because back then I had very good devotee friends who always, we all of us pushed each other, and it went well. But now that I'm married and the life has changed, I'm finding it a little difficult to find good devotee friendships across. I see devotees with 16 rounds of chanting in the sadhana cards, but then when it comes to the behavior, it is, most of it is like for the self and not for the general public. Like the book distribution, nobody's up for that. For the classes, nobody's up, but everybody is very careful about their own sadhanas. So how should I be careful in developing the friendships with the devotees and not commit any offense towards anybody?
Well, in association with devotees, generally, we want to keep the humble mood, offer all respects to others, and don't be anxious to get respect ourselves. I think that is an important quality in associating with other devotees. Just keep a nice respectful mood with everyone. And then also, you want to always be eager for devotional service. And don't find fault with anybody, but see faults in ourselves. That's also important. Don't worry about what other people are doing or not doing. Just be an example of yourself, what you do. Don't be critical about other people, or they're not doing this or not doing that. That kind of thing will not be appreciated, obviously. You're in a special country, and you have to consider it's not the same everywhere. Not everywhere is the same. So anyway, appreciate people for what they're doing. If they're doing sadhana, well, very good. They're doing good sadhana. And you want to do good sadhana yourself as well. Sadhana is very important. It will give you the strength to go on in Krishna consciousness, to keep up your own Krishna consciousness. Of course, you got married, so you have to expect new friends. It takes time. Yeah, it takes time, In Krishna consciousness, we have we recognize different ways of loving exchange. We offer gifts in charity and accepting charitable gifts, or offer prasadam and accept prasadam. It's also very nice, you're married, so maybe you can invite people to your home sometimes and you can cook for them, or you cook something, take it for the temple program, distribute prasadam to people, just showing some loving care and being always eager to do some service, inquiring, is there any service I could do? Anything you'd like me to, offer to do some service? That's also good. People will respect that. But just be careful not to be critical of others, Be patient, and gradually, I'm sure you'll find some nice friends there.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. So I think we'll finish here tonight. There are no more questions. We're coming back tomorrow night. Is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday every week?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Twice a week.
So we'll see you thrice.
Yeah, twice a week.
All right. So we'll see you tomorrow night. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Bhakti Vinashan Nrsimha Maharaj ki jai.
Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, let me pranam.